SpiderMan? My name is George Serrano, aka The Don, and if you're listening to this, you're going to be here for one reason, and that's a brand new episode of the Major Issues Podcast, brought to you by ComicBook Clique. And as you know, I am never alone. Sir, please introduce yourself.
I am Frank Miller's progressively deteriorating psyche, Gregory Thomas, aka GT Rebirth.
GT Rebirth is here in studio, and with Marvel Netflix seemingly ramping up its final two seasons with Iron Fist Season 2 and the tease for Daredevil Season 3, we decided to go to one of Daredevil's greatest stories, written by, as alluded by the great GT Rebirth, Frank Miller, and that is Daredevil Born Again. I guess without any spoilers up front, how do you feel about this book?
I actually enjoyed it a lot. I went into it really trepidatiously because I have this really preconceived notion of Frank Miller, which is basically a lot from his later days.
Yeah.
I am told that Frank Miller earlier on, before he got to what was the ridiculousness of the Batman and Robin one, All-Star Batman and Robin, the Boy Wonder.
Oh my gosh.
What a name. That he was actually really good in his younger days before he went down the anthill that was Holy Terror and other bizarre decisions.
And then you hear like the stuff. I heard like the recent stuff isn't good. The like the Dark Knight Master Race.
Oh, Dark Knight Returns Master Race
is a little choppy.
Yeah.
And stuff. So
I'm the lone guy who did not like the Dark Knight Returns from the start.
What? Just the characterizations? Is it
I didn't care for the characterizations as the Superman guy of this show.
Oh,
I did not
I
care for the whole
that.
corporate stooge Superman thing.
Right.
Nor did I care for the
the American Eagle landing on his shoulder.
Oh my god, it's so
thing. Yeah.
hokey. And I did not care for the giant, blocky, old, grizzled, angry Batman.
Yeah.
Being held alive by just technology and ridiculousness.
Right, and I mean, the story was just meant to be like a non-canon, non-starter story, Dark Knight Returns, and it blew up. It changed fundamentally how people wrote Batman, how Batman looked, and it all came from Frank Miller. That's all I heard. This book predates Dark Knight Returns, but you could see a lot of that inner monologue of crime fighting and stuff from it in here. I think my favorite character in this is the Kingpin.
Yeah?
Only because...
Do you hear him in Vincent D'Onofrio's voice?
A little bit. But I also kind of still hear Kingpin as the animated Spider-Man Kingpin.
I go back and forth.
With the weird, European kind of accent thing that's going on there.
I go back and forth a little bit.
But Frank Miller goes ahead and writes this classic, which was collected. Again, with my novice, background in this, I thought that this was just like a standalone story as well. I thought that's what Frank Miller did, was just pick the heroes and write standalone stories. But he was a Daredevil writer.
Yes.
For many years. And a lot of the good parts of what we get from Daredevil come from Frank, or at least the gritty nature, that really gritty street fighting level here. And even though he's Daredevil, and the character Matt Murdock's always been a Christian, this story really plays with the ideas of Christianity, like rebirth.
I think it's Catholicism.
Yeah,
which is a lot stricter.
Yes, you're right. As a matter of fact, it's a lot stricter sect of Christianity, and you have being born again, obviously with the title there. The cover art is a stained glass window. You have Maggie, the nun.
Yes, Maggie.
The nun. We'll get into that in a bit. But it's really deep adult themes when you consider a comic book. When you consider this is written in 1986 or something.
Oh, this dives into some really, and it doesn't even ease you into it.
No,
the book begins real deep in some real dark places.
It does. So let's talk about our first antagonist, or I think it's pretty much the antagonist of the whole comic.
I feel like I know where this is going.
The beginning of this story starts off with Karen Page, which if you've seen either Daredevil season, you know who Karen Page is. But if not, she was just his girlfriend and I believe secretary at the law firm in the comics for Foggy.
I believe so. Yes.
For Foggy and Matt, Foggy being Matt's best friend, and so Karen is seen going through withdrawals. I guess heroin.
Yes.
Withdrawals.
Yes.
She has become a heroin addict. And because she does not have the money for a fix, she's going to sell Matt Murdock's secret identity and tell people that he's Daredevil.
Put it in her arm.
Just to, not even, how much money you could have gotten and then you could have bought all your fixes, but she went straight for the fix. I'm not saying, you need to sell your friends upriver. I just think she did a terrible deal. Like that was just a bad deal.
She certainly sold low, but that is the throngs of addiction.
So how much throughout this story, Karen is trying to get her fixes. She robs the blind. She crosses borders. She does sexual favors for other favors. How do you feel about the characterization of Karen Page in this?
It's like it is painted interestingly for me because I kind of already go into this with the Frank Miller has a history of hating women.
Ah, yes. Right.
Frank Miller has a weird history of painting women into the darkest lights.
Yeah.
The women in Sin City are not very well painted. The woman in The Spirit is kind of a backstabber who's out for her own.
He did Wonder Woman in All-Star, and she was all off.
Oh, was she?
Yeah, she...
I only saw the first issue.
Her and Superman got into an argument about whether or not they should stop the Batman. And she says something disrespectful, and he, like, bangs something. Like, he just hits, like, the wall, and she, like, gets thrown off to the side out of just this pure strength. And then she, like, gets in his face and starts, like, cursing him out. And then they start making out.
Jesus.
I'm like, what is going on here? This is ridiculous.
Yeah. So according to Frank Miller, women are just sort of terrible people. So like, yeah, we're going to write Karen Page is like what's the worst thing you could possibly do? Sell out your former lover's secret identity for a hit.
For one hit of heroin.
Oh my god.
It's also kind of alluded that she's doing pornography.
She had done pornography. Like she went out west for an acting career that failed, and then she ended up just doing pornography, and that's pretty much like in the deepest depths of what could be the seedy underbelly of filming.
Yeah,
doing pornography to make some money, ending up on the drug thing just to get the edge off.
She was like in Mexico.
Yeah,
she fled to Mexico.
Yeah,
she was already in such troubles that armed men are coming for her. Like she's been around the block.
She's in a real dark place.
Any chance you can see the actress who plays Karen Page doing any of this stuff in?
Most likely not. I don't think they would go. I am sure they will do some sort of story at some point where they do the identity thing, because the identity things happen more than once. But as far as this, no, I don't expect to see this on Netflix. Eventually,
she gets all the way back to Daredevil. And then they make love, I want to say.
I wouldn't say that. He has been through so much at that point that he is a very forgiving soul.
I guess so, yeah. Well, he who is without sin, I guess, right? Cast the first stone.
Right.
And so with that idea of Catholicism and asking for forgiveness for our sins, Karen does confess the entire story behind why Kingpin knows his secret identity. But he's way more forgiving than I guess I would be. Because
I can see why.
At that point, he had been drugged through the mud. And when I'm reading these books, I'm reminded of how much the shows and stuff are handicapped by not having that eternal dialogue.
Right.
Not having that running dialogue of what's going on in his head. Because in this book in particular, especially with everything that Kingpin puts him through, Matt goes a little mad. Matt goes a little crazy.
Yeah.
But she sells off his identity to Kingpin, who immediately demands that everybody who's touched the envelope be killed. So he's the only one who truly knows and has it in his hand, in his possession.
Him and Wesley.
I'm glad Wesley's here. I like Wesley. I like the shout out to Wesley. I like Melvin Potter, the guy who made the suit.
Yes.
And the show's also in this as well. If you, like I said, if you watch the show, if you watch any of the seasons, you're very familiar with a lot of these characters.
A lot of these characters are easily recognizable if you are familiar with the show.
And then Kingpin basically orchestrates this domino effect of like bankruptcy and IRS freezing the assets and being disbarred from the law. My favorite thing was he does a lot more. My favorite thing was probably getting the 20-year cop to testify against Matt.
Yeah.
Because it's an idea of like, this guy's been clean for 20 years. He'd never lie. Why would he randomly lie about this, Matt? It's like because he's been paid off by the Kingpin.
And well, and not even so simple to say as like he was paid off by the Kingpin, but that like you can find anyone that has a choke point, and for him was like, what was it? His son
was sick. Yeah.
My son's in the hospital. He's sick. We can't afford the payments, and Kingpin will gladly, I'll give you all the money you want if you do me this.
And even with Kingpin's help, the child passes away.
Yeah. It was all for naught.
So it goes to show you, the man had to try to sell his soul to save his child, all for naught. I guess, seemingly to end up with nothing. Then you have, while Kingpin is doing all this and breaking down Matt, you have Ben Urich.
Urich, I believe.
Urich?
Ben
Urich. I liked his storyline. He basically has a storyline of he's a reporter just trying to get the word out on Kingpin, being the Kingpin of crime and manipulating New York City. Manipulating and mangling New York City. And basically how he has his finger in every pie at this point.
Yeah.
But even with that, there's a lot of talk of like this kind of conglomerate that Kingpin's a part of with all these other leaders, and he's the most fearsome one of them all. They all seem to kind of...
Kingpin runs pretty much like he's the head honcho of the criminal underworld. He keeps everyone in their place, and everyone operates under the mechanism that he has created. And the scariest thing about it is that he keeps orders so well that everything is mostly untraceable.
Yes. And so, in this, Ben is determined not only to like clear Matt's name because he knows Matt's a good guy, but to make the world, the society, aware of what Kingpin's doing, this big predator in the concrete jungle. But at every turn, he's being deterred by Kingpin having his finger in every pie and people literally physically threatening him.
Yes.
Like, you better not say nothing.
Oh, yes.
And Ben Urich trying to figure out on what side of this he wants to be on. I thought that was very interesting. How do you feel about that whole Urich arc?
What I found interesting from it was that I felt like, for me, it was the first time seeing that Daredevil and Ben Urich have this Batman and Gordon-esque relationship.
Okay.
Urich's kind of his guy on the inside, and they inform each other and help out each other in any way they can. Urich has information being Urich passes on any information he can being a journalist. Daredevil passes on any information he can that he needs to be, that can help him by exposing it. Urich's ability to be a reporter gets immediately threatened.
Yeah.
Which interrupts the entire spin of things because the entire thing for Kingpin also with his personal vendetta against Matt Murdock is Kingpin is trying to not necessarily go legitimate, but to create legitimate business to further mask his criminal dealings.
Yeah, and he basically alludes to that in one of the meetings, saying that the being in the shadow stuff is kind of child's play at this point. If you want to grow, we have to create something to grow behind. Something legitimate to grow behind.
The same ideal as Oscorp Industries and the same idea as
Stark.
Stark Industries or Roxxon Energy or these seemingly legitimate corporations.
Even AIM.
Yeah, that are just fronts for all sorts of criminal madness.
I dig that, like you said, Kingpin is a real big threat in this, and he's the one who basically
real big.
He's huge. He's humongous. But he gets the secret identity, and he makes things really hell for Daredevil, no pun intended. But the man has no powers. He's a supervillain with no powers. I don't think he has like super intellect or anything like that. He might be smart, like he might have taken business classes and all that kind of stuff. He's strong, but because he's trained that way. He's a great crime boss, but because he's worked for it. This is somebody who's at the peak of the game because he's chosen to be the apex predator.
Yes.
And superhero be damned. And so for somebody who is so self-made and somebody who is so quote-unquote powerless when facing off with somebody whose super senses can have them throw a baton 500 feet, and still hit the target, he is a match at every point for Daredevil in this.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I was surprised by how menacing he could be with, like, again, no powers.
It's all about, I guess you could say manipulation is one of the greatest powers one can have.
Yeah.
And Kingpin's ability to manipulate Matt Murdock's entire world is an incredible weapon. The line I heard, which I liked, was basically that Daredevil's life has been destroyed before he even gets to have his morning coffee.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
He wakes up and he gets the cassette tape from his girlfriend, which he knows is a bad idea. He knows is bad news because his girlfriend lives only a few blocks away.
Yeah.
He finds out that, like, he's up for disbarment because now it's alluded to that he's been, bribery or tampering.
Yeah, you have a cop saying that he's been tampering.
Basically, all his lawyering deals have been illegitimately gained. The IRS freezes all of his assets. So he's got like $10 to his name.
This is like all in that first issue.
Yeah.
It's all piling up, and you're immediately gaining sympathy for him. But the entire time, Kingpin's in the shadows cackling, and you could just see all his machinations working, because that was just the I guess you would say
the tip,
the legal stuff. Well, yeah, obviously just the tip, but that was the legal stuff, the disbarment, stuff like that. They say that the bank says they haven't gotten payments for the apartment.
Mm-hmm.
So he's playing. Kingpin's playing around with forms and documents and bureaucracy at that point. But when you get to him walking to his house and his house exploding, I like that Daredevil basically put two and two together and said, I didn't think this was a gangster thing.
Nope.
And if you were gonna send me a message, you probably shouldn't have signed it, Kingpin.
Yep.
Which I thought was pretty cool. I like when my heroes put two and two together. I don't know how else he would have figured out how everything else was working against him.
No, probably not.
And he probably wouldn't have figured it out. But in doing so, with the explosion of the building, Kingpin effectively signs, and signs the act. And Matt Murdock understands that now it's Kingpin coming after him, and somehow Kingpin has figured out his secret identity.
Yeah.
With that, though, you have once it's signed, it's balls to the wall after that.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're in a war. It's going to be Matt Murdock against Kingpin, basically for the soul of Daredevil, and Kingpin was prepared at every turn. Matt Murdock shows up to his humble abode, right? And he says, like, basically, like, let him in, let him up.
Yeah.
And then he beats the crap out of him in like a diaper, in like one of those Yokozuna things. He, bloodies him, knocks him unconscious, throws him into a car, solders the doors, pours alcohol all over him to make it seem like he got into a drunken car accident,
and like dumps it into the river,
and sent him to die, like sent him for dead. And most normal men would have been killed at that point.
No,
he was dealing with Matt Murdock, but
if you've seen that last episode of the Defenders where the entire building kind of comes down on old Matty, this is basically that exact thing, except if the building was falling very slowly, brick by brick.
Right. And the idea is that, they say, although he has these superpowers, Matt Murdock, he's also humbled. With these superpowers cannot make him, force anyone to put money in his bank account, or someone to build his house, or for him to get his, barment. How do you get it back? For him to stop being disbarred and continue being a lawyer, none of his powers can help him do any of those things.
Not at all.
So he's effectively helpless in this situation, just as helpless as Karen, who meets some sort of really, really bad guy, Paolo, some like scum of the earth guy.
Carlo?
It was with a P. Paolo. Yeah. And so he's agreed to take her to America, for favors.
Many favors, yes.
Yeah, and he's a really, really bad hombre. And
to be his concubine.
At one point, gets into a full-on shootout with the police.
Yes.
In broad daylight. Kills 2 cops. Tries to kill Foggy at one point. Really bad cat. How do you think about like how the other drug dealers in the Karen Page story were characterized?
I guess they're characterized as much as they go out of their way to make sure that there is no sympathy for any of these people going around her, and that she is just in the throngs of the worst of humanity.
Yeah.
Everywhere she goes, people are trying to use her, and she is tunnel vision. She will do whatever she has to get to Matt Murdock because she believes that salvation lies there.
I find it so ironic that that's where she figures her salvation is, with that being the man that she sold out.
I guess it's a sort of a if you want to play with the themes of the book, I think it's just sort of a faith that she will be forgiven.
Damn, Karen. That's a lot, because almost immediately once she sells off his identity, next time we see her, she's already like, "Oh, Matt's the only guy who could save me."
Yeah,
and it's like, well, you just sold him out like yesterday, you know. So yeah, I guess it's that thing of loyalty.
But you also see her, like, she goes in and out of struggling whether or not to get that hit.
Yeah.
And like right before she eventually makes it back to America and back to New York City, which is a long trip. Once she even makes it back to New York City, and now she gets caught in this shootout with the police and her pusher, that she starts to think like, this is how it's gonna end for me. This guy wants to kill me.
Oh,
the police are all shooting at me.
I forgot that part.
And her last thoughts are, well, I'm gonna die here. May as well go out with one more hit.
Is it her or somebody else who says, "You'll be dead before it even gets in your arm," or something like that?
Oh, that's her head.
Okay.
I think that's her head.
Man.
She's like struggling with this inner monologue of, well, do I just get high one more time and go out like this, or?
Yeah, and don't get it twisted. You know, obviously, addiction is no joke, and it does lead people to do some ridiculous things. And I guess that's all Frank was alluding to here. Speaking of ridiculousness, how do you feel about the little side plot with Daredevil's girlfriend Glory and Irish?
Huh?
She's Irish, I want to say.
Yes.
He wrote her very like
with the
with the Irish accent. Oh, Matty. There was a lot of that going on. How do you feel about Glory and Foggy?
This is odd for me at some point because I'd never heard of Glory. Like, of the few women that Matt Murdock has been with, I'd never heard of her. I know about Natasha. I know about Karen. I know about Elektra.
Yeah.
So this was like, oh, okay, who's this character? And then immediately, if you didn't know about her to begin with, it's like, well, she leaves Matt in the first issue and then ends up with his best friend Foggy.
For the rest of it, right?
Yeah. And like, at some point, Murdock goes to call Foggy, and Glory picks up, and it's just like, even my friends are against me.
Yep.
Jesus.
They play with the whole idea of loyalty, especially with the Karen Page stuff. And then this,
he doesn't even know about Karen Page yet. Karen's betrayed him. Foggy has seemingly betrayed him. His entire life has spiraled down out of control, and he has no clue why.
The law has betrayed him.
Yeah,
you know, by lying.
The thing he worked for, the police force has betrayed him. The thing he works to salvage.
Yeah. Another little wrinkle in the plan that I dug is the idea that Kingpin would then go and pay Melvin Potter to get a suit made so that he can give it to like the craziest person in an insane asylum, and then just let them run loose.
Yeah,
as Daredevil. I thought that was pretty ingenious.
Yeah, he's essentially already broken Matt Murdock. Now he must break the Daredevil image.
Yep, and so he sends like one of his cronies to accompany to take the guy to a rooftop so he can start all this madness. I think to go kill Foggy, right?
No, because I think he hired Foggy, and he was going to attempt to use that against him.
Oh yeah, I remember the whole Foggy. No, he wanted to hire. He was like, I think I might hire that gentleman. But I think they sent. I want to say.
Oh no, because I think he
Daredevil.
mentions that he had intentions for Foggy, and it's a shame he has to.
Yeah, I think he sent Daredevil to kill his friend and his girlfriend because that's just kind of messed up. Kingpin.
And because Glory was there taking pictures and causing trouble.
Oh my god.
Because she wanted to be a reporter.
Everyone wants to be a reporter in New York.
Not anymore. Print media is dead.
But Ben Urich can be he being deterred at every point. But the crazy Daredevil is being escorted to a rooftop, the rooftop that they want him on to go into the apartment, break into the apartment, kill Foggy and Glory, and he's like giving him all this instruction, and then Daredevil just kills him. The crazy Daredevil kills the guy, and then goes one-on-one.
He was
with
very
Matt.
patronizing, in fairness.
How'd you think Matt's bubble jacket? That guy's rocking that blue bubble jacket from almost cover to cover.
It's what he's got. It paints him very nicely up against all the whiteness of this in the book.
Yeah, because this is during snow, right? This is the winter. They do Christmas.
Yes.
In Times Square, not Rockefeller Center. Sorry.
Yes.
You see
Big old
Foggy
tree.
and Glory. Yeah, Foggy and Glory are doing the Christmas stuff. The only time we get the heat stuff is Karen when she's like, "It's so hot. It's too hot. Why is it so hot? I'm on drugs."
Because it's Mexico and because you're on drugs.
And because you're on a bunch of drugs. But after a lot of that stuff happens with being knocked down repeatedly, the setup to make it seem like he had committed suicide with the car crash and stuff. Daredevil is then saved by a woman.
Yes.
That woman is then, I guess,
Sister Maggie.
Sister Maggie. And Sister Maggie, the only context that Matt has for this woman is that she smells like a woman that he remembered visiting him when he first got into the accident. Yeah. How do you feel about the retelling of his origin?
I thought it was interesting to sort of add in this character that, to my knowledge, had been never revealed up until this point.
I mean, we're 200. This is like 225 issues in.
You know?
So it's like, definitely a new layer to the Daredevil character.
It's like you never really hear about the mother figure in his life, and then you hear like that it all went real bad. But for the most part, now it's just someone else was there.
Right.
Interesting.
Right. And you have I liked the blank panels with the word bubbles.
Right.
I really dug that little flair.
So here's one thing I did struggle with in this book, actually, that you mentioned, that the book has this weird thing about narration where you never know who's speaking.
Yeah, because sometimes the corresponding panel isn't what.
Sometimes like the panel's on Kingpin, and sometimes it's Kingpin speaking in the first person, and then it's someone speaking about Kingpin. But like, there's never a clear dichotomy between whether like, okay, the blue bubbles are about this person and the purple ones are about this one, because it just goes all willy nilly by the end.
And it's not a case where Matt Murdock would be the out and out narrator, because there are certain things he wouldn't be able to see and wouldn't be able to describe.
Right. Sometimes it's just Ben Urich talking from his perspective. Sometimes it's Kingpin just, twiddling himself about how much of a genius he is and how much fun he's having destroying Matt Murdock's life.
Yeah, it goes from first to third person narrative on and off.
Oh, yeah.
Where you will have...
especially for someone like me who's, like, reading the book in voices and I never know whose voice to put. So I have this weird tick where if it's just a generic narrator, my head immediately goes to Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a good narrator.
You ever watched Cosmos? It's so much fun.
I get that. I definitely get that, because you'll get the Karen will be like, I'm feeling this way, I'm feeling this way, I'm feeling this way, and then it'll be like Karen Page. As Karen Page walks off, she notices in the distance, and it's like.
And you think that the blank white boxes are the generic narrator, but then that starts talking in first person sometimes.
Yeah. Or
it starts talking from someone's particular perspective. It's not all just Uatu.
I liked how they put in context him sorting out his powers for the first time, or at least the super hearing.
Yeah.
The super senses, in that sense of like, he's like, I can hear my dad, but it sounds like he has a megaphone. Like, what is going on?
Right.
And you see the big panels of sun and all this other kind of stuff, and as the words are getting smaller, as he's able to focus in on them, hone in on who's talking, and not let so much in. What is it like?
So much light.
My voice is an island. Swim to it. There's too much. From Man of Steel. It was my
world's too big. Make it small.
The world's too big, Matt. Make it small. Just be in that hospital room with battling Jack.
That's the whole thing about what oversaturated senses.
Frank and Matt then had this odd thing of saying that she feels and smells familiar.
Yes.
That there's a comfort there, like a tell that they have to be related or something like that. Do you believe that exists?
I believe it certainly does for Matt, who's had these heightened senses for some time and would sort of remember certain things that other people wouldn't even really notice.
That makes sense.
Although I do think there may be an inherent thing there.
Yeah.
But maybe that's all just for theming as well.
And this question might have been answered in subsequent issues, but why do you think Maggie lies about being Matt's mother?
Because I think the secret is important to her and to keeping whatever the structure of their lives already is at this point. I think it was important to her that her anonymity and her disappearance was kept up. Okay. Like, she it's not like she shows up back in his life to be back in his life. It's not
kind of terrible.
It's not even really clear that she's the one who saves him. It's just that's the church he ends up at.
Which is very much what happens at the end of Defenders that you were talking about.
Yes.
The building goes down, and then he wakes up in a monastery, seemingly, and he has nuns presiding over him, and Maggie is called at one point. In that. So, in here, Maggie doesn't seem to really care to, like, she cares about Matt. Is her cold demeanor, is that just her trying to distance herself from the situation, or do you think that's just who she is?
It came off as her trying to, like, not give off any tells.
Okay.
Yeah, that's how I read it, because I think she cares enough to, like, she cared enough to show up at the hospital.
Right.
So I feel like she's just sort of this, watchful guardian, tuxedo mask-esque character.
Tuxedo mask. I haven't heard that in a while.
We watched this with Sailor Moon stuff on YouTube.
Yeah. Tuxedo Man. And yeah, Moonlight Knight, right?
Yeah, that was the second one. It was stupid.
Yeah, they do a lot.
It was real stupid.
They do a lot over there. But I could dig that. I could see that as being the eternal logic for why she would.
Yeah. She shows up at the hospital after the accident, gives him the cross, and that's something he stays with for the rest of his life. And at the end of that whole debacle, she takes care of him at the monastery and, unknowingly kind of gives herself away.
It's only a few issues, this story. But what I really liked is, just like in the television show, it got to show the reach of Kingpin. Like, where random people are telling Urich in the street, like, well, better watch your step. You better not do that. How do you feel about that Miss Trumbo nurse that was going around breaking fingers?
Oh yeah, that one actually that one was funny because at first I didn't even think to suspect it, and then like they don't really hide it because like it gives you that that almost television style like close up on the nurse glaring at Urich.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, she's in on the take, but it's very clear that like Kingpin's hand is in everything. He's got someone in the police force. He's got someone at the hospital. He's got someone at the courts.
Yep.
His reach is almost aimless.
And so she is incredibly menacing and is willing to seemingly do whatever Kingpin wants. Where she kills a man.
Yeah.
She kills a man in his deathbed. Now it's his deathbed. But she kills a man in bed.
Yeah.
Just to make sure that he can't, speak on Kingpin. She breaks Urich's fingers, saying
because that's his job.
Yeah, he's a typist and he won't be able to tell his story that way. Then she gets fired.
Well, no, but then she hangs his wife.
Oh my gosh! No, she goes to the house. Yeah, she goes to
the house and hangs his wife by a tie or
that was after she got fired, wasn't it?
Was it after?
And she was like, well, then there'll be no reason to fire me if there's no Ben or something like that. Because I think they say, like, you've made the trail too high. He's seen you, Ben Urich, He has a way, he might he'll identify you, yada yada.
Oh,
And
okay.
she's like, screw that. And she just walked out the door to
Right.
go end.
Yeah,
Ben
she was
Urich.
upset about something. Yes.
Yeah, to end Ben Urich, and then and Daredevil fights her, punched her in the face. That's
Right.
Is that another bad characterization of a woman? Is that Frank being Frank again?
I'm not sure in this case.
Between Maggie,
I
Karen,
think at this point
Glory.
she's murdered a man and broken a man's fingers. I don't think there's any sympathy for this woman.
Who he thinks the best woman in this? Glory, Karen, Nurse
Probably
Lady,
Urich's wife.
Nuri. Oh yeah, Urich's wife. Urich's wife's in, yeah, definitely.
She's the only one that's like just a straight up victim.
How'd you feel about the J. Jonah cameo?
Oh, that was cool. I was just like, oh, Jameson's in this. Okay. It's one of the few times you see them like paint Jonah in a completely positive light, because Jonah's just like trying to defend the values and like the backbone it takes to be a journalist in this city.
I think it's important though to have both of those shades for Jameson, because obviously he's an antagonist in the sense that he doesn't believe in the whole vigilante nature of crime fighting and masked heroes and all that kind of stuff. And you can have that person, you can have that narrative that, it's important to have that narrative. But it's also important to distinguish him from the real life criminals, the real life bad guys.
Yeah.
And realize that he also has a line he won't cross. Although he's done a bunch of weird, shady stuff in the comics to try to get SpiderMan.
He has. Actually, you know what? I'll veer off here, and I was watching a video, and the video points out something really interesting about J. Jonah's characterization in the Spider-Man movies that you and Dan the Comic Man talked about last week.
Oh, that was fun.
Yes. In the first one, there's a very interesting moment for J. Jonah Jameson, where Jameson is painted in the same light he always is. He's kind of conniving, he's cheap, he's selfish, he's out for Jameson at every point, right? The moment Goblin shows up at the Bugle and asks for the guy who takes pictures of Spider-Man, he doesn't give him up.
Oh, yeah.
He doesn't care about Parker. He has no reason to give a damn about this kid.
But he won't answer to terrorists. He will not negotiate.
I get... they never really reveal it, but there's many... Maybe it's just Jameson's respect for, for freelance media and yeah. And the voice of the people. He's not going to give this kid up, even though his life is he has no reason to give up his life for this foolish child.
Right.
So there is something to Jameson that is, a bit bigger than what seems to be his overall cheapness and negativity.
Exactly.
He has a respect for something. Yeah. He has a respect for civil service. He has a respect for, the military. He has a respect for people. Good, honest people.
And so in this, his role is to basically call Urich out.
Yeah.
Is to say, like, where's your backbone?
Being a coward.
Yeah, where's your backbone? This is where brave men make their stand. In the news. Is reporters have come to me and asked to tackle on tough subjects or hot topics, and then eventually they lose the backbone to pursue these things.
You got roughed up a little bit, and you're gonna quit now?
I don't know about a little bit though. When Jonah was playing that angle, I was like, I don't think you've seen the extent of what's going on here.
Was it at that point where they mentioned that like technically his hand would have healed by now, and he's still wearing the cast?
Yeah, you're right. No, you're right.
So like now he's hiding behind it,
and he won't even let other people say Matt Murdock.
Right.
Remember, because he's so scared that somebody's gonna randomly come out of the bushes and break his fingers.
He is like legitimately traumatized.
But speaking of traumatized, and a lot, like I said, a lot of this can lend itself to Netflix, the Marvel Netflix stuff. Like I can really see this stuff happening, although some of these characters are dead already. Something that I thought was incredibly cinematic was the scene where it's just Urich, I guess, in the Daily Bugle, and people are yelling over him.
Yes.
And so people are yelling over him they're like, oh, Urich wanted a puff piece, and we're supposed to have this puff piece on page 5, or else we're going to have a blank page 5.
His boss is yelling to the big boss about, like, I gave him a job. He hasn't done it yet. It's like, Urich, you're going to need to get off that phone. And Urich's just, like, listening to the nurse.
And on the other side of the
there's
phone,
people in the back who's just like, we need this thing now.
Everyone's yelling about page 5 and deadlines.
It is the hustle and bustle of a newspaper, like, minutes before a deadline.
But the entire time, Urich is listening to a man be murdered.
Yeah.
choked to death, and in the chilling, the chilling explanation that it even took longer than he thought it would, or way longer than it should have.
Like you expect the scene in the book to start like blurring out the outside and just focus in on Urich while he's listening to this man like gurgle.
His last breaths being taken. I thought that was incredibly sadistic, and I thought it really showed the terror of like that whole hiding in plain sight thing. Like someone's being murdered on the phone, and I'm on the phone with and the person being murdered, and no one has a clue. No one's batting an eye. Neither in my location or the location in which the murder is taking place.
And this is someone who was hired and put in place by the hospital to take care of this man.
Exactly.
So like,
if you're not safe in a hospital,
right? I have no idea who around me is an informant for the Kingpin.
Exactly, and who might want to take me out completely. So I thought that was crazy. And like you said, this is a warning. This is a show of force. This could be you.
Yeah.
And in
anytime.
And in that moment, it puts Urich in a very particular, situation where he has to decide for the rest of this book whether or not he's going to tell the story. I'm glad he did. I think the regular Urich does. He goes and the regular Urich, the Netflix Urich, goes to find Kingpin's
mother.
Family, his mother.
Which is the one thing that got him killed.
Yeah, then Kingpin wild out, and then Karen wrote a puff piece because that's what she does, where she's like, everyone in New York is great.
What was it? He asked him something, and Urich denied it, and he was just like, I believe. Had Wesley already died?
Yes.
Okay. I think he asked him if he killed Wesley.
And he didn't kill Wesley.
And Urich's like, no. Wesley. He's like, I believe you. You're right. You're a man of character. He's like, you're a man of good character. You wouldn't lie about that. But you brought my mother into this.
And he went full Donkey Kong.
Yes.
He just pounded on it. He put him through a table. And then he just raining down fists. And not in the way you would think fists would rain down in the punch way. In like the whack-a-mole way.
Hammer fists.
Yeah, in like a whack-a-mole way. And he's grounding and pounding Urich. And speaking of his fight prowess, how do you think how'd you like how they handled his ability to fight in this, with him training with a bunch of people? And then...
I thought that was interesting. I've never seen that before, but it makes sense. Like Kingpin is the kind of guy who would want to make sure he's able to defend himself should his generals not, or should he want to just take in the glory of getting into a fight. But
that's also one of those kind of like, I mean, I'm not trying to romanticize him, but that's also one of those things that's kind of respectable about him, is that he doesn't have to fight with how much reach that we said that this man has, and what's been shown. He doesn't really ever have to fight, but the fact that he wants to be the most prepared in every aspect, that's what's gotten him where he's at. That's what's gotten him as such a long, a long legacy in the Marvel canon. Is because of his ability to plan, his ability to be malicious with no superpowers, his ability to fight. I remember in Spider-Man the animated series that he'd always call him fat.
Yeah.
And then there's this one instance where he jumps at him and Kingpin bear hugs him. And Spider-Man's like, what the hell?
Let me introduce you to 400 pounds of pure muscle.
Yeah, he's like, I've only got this amount of body fat. The rest of this is...
Yeah, it's all muscle.
Yeah, so I was like, all right. So when you see Kingpin bench pressing in season 2, he's out there getting it. I was like, go ahead, Fist. Go ahead. I really
if you've ever seen like big time, not bodybuilders, but power lifters, they look a lot like that.
Right.
They've got these large bellies because they have to maintain a massive calorie surplus to amass the amounts of energy it would take, to pick up these heavy things and to build these bigger muscles, to support all of this gravitational force.
I've heard that for the most part, like pecs are like show muscles.
Yeah.
And so, like, they don't have really much utility.
Pecs and abs are basically muscles that you develop over constant hypertrophy and breaking down of the muscle and, like...
Tearing and repair,
and a certain degree of lower body fat, which would allow the muscle to show.
Be defined, yeah.
Yeah. Like how do you say, air sealing a bag?
Right.
There's the chicken. It's right there. Nothing else around it.
Yeah.
Whereas if you put a chicken in a bag full of air, it would be, you would just hit up against it and never get to the meat.
But Kingpin has no, there's no point in his life to be cosmetically pleasing. The man likes to be how he is.
Yes.
He wears nice white fancy suits. He wears yellow ascots.
Still had a wife during it.
Still the only villain I know wearing ascots. Still to this day. Unless you count Fred from Scooby-Doo.
He's a villain in his own right.
Oh my God. The pup named Scooby-Doo made him a villain. I know he was like a conspiracy theorist. And that was hilarious. But yeah, so you have that with Kingpin not only training, but being able to take out Daredevil. And as far as other villains are concerned, he decides to bring out the big guns. He decides to call on your man Simpson. He decides to call on Officer Simpson. He decides to call Nuke. And this is the first appearance of Nuke.
Yes, a character that Frank Miller created.
I did not know that. I've read stories with him being in them. Mm-hmm. He's also currently in the newest Captain America run.
Yes.
There's like a factory of nukes.
Yes.
Which is that when you see what Nuke does in this one book, the idea that there would be a factory of these guys is out of control. But
I appreciate the termament where it's just like I have an entire nuclear armament and it's just actually the guy's name. Nuke.
Yeah, Nuke, exactly. And he says it at one point. He goes like, Nuke, something you would drop on on your enemies, and that's exactly what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna drop this nuke on my enemies. Nuke has a very noticeable. Yeah, he has a very noticeable tattoo. It's an American flag, and it's on his face.
Yes.
At no point is it explained in this. Now, the reason why I take that, and I'm forming these ideas as we speak because we haven't spoken about this book yet.
No.
But the
freeform is how we roll, baby.
Yeah, but the idea that in his debut that it's not explained, it's just the idea that he's just so uber American.
Yes, he is this Aryan, all American boy. Probably grew up somewhere in Oklahoma.
You're just basically supposed to put two and two together and not dig the fact, but understand the fact that, oh yeah, he's a villain and he loves America, so yeah, he got a tattoo of America on his face.
Yeah.
The first time we see him is in Brazil, I want to say.
I think so.
He's like in a third world country.
Yeah.
And he has like a grenade launcher and he is just scorching the earth. There's no blinking. Mm-hmm. There's no sympathy.
He's just on Black Ops covered up missions for the military.
Which is kind of sort of his characterization in Jessica Jones.
Yeah.
Towards the end, you realize that he's been experimented on for this military program. Please, 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 please stop making super soldiers. Please, 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 please.
You don't get it. It hasn't worked. Please. It hasn't worked in years. You keep trying.
There's
we're up to what, 24 X's?
I'm up to the belief that between Cap and Wolverine, so much bad has been done in the sake of trying to create the super soldier. Man, like a Hulk and Abomination, the X-23 Omega Red.
Yeah.
Daredevil, the Deadpool, Nuke in this situation here. And I know it's like 50 others, but it's this idea. I think at one point there's a character.
To a degree, Red Skull, I think.
You said you were reading Spider Island, right?
Yes, I just started today.
Oh, okay. I think that there's a villain, if not in Spider Island, it's in Spider-Verse, that is also like with new Cap, got the super soldier serum, but was working in another place or whatever the heck.
Jeez.
And it's just like, stop. You guys need to stop with the super soldier program thing. Do you think it's just an easy trope, or do you think they have an actual...
It might be, but I sometimes I'd like to believe that they are just working toward the day where it's just like, someone figured it out.
We got an exact other Captain America.
I'd like to believe that one day it'll be Parker, and they didn't have to deal with it.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and that's another guy, right, that they're always trying to replicate. The spider bite. Well, Spider-Man got powers from...
Sure.
That's just the hand waviness of radioactivity in this book. In this book and most of the superhero books.
Yeah, but then they got weird with it, where they're like, is it radioactive spider, or is it spider totem?
Yes, and spider blood.
Yes,
has also been accredited. Spider blood. I've heard that. The song says Spider Blood,
to go off on a
radioactive spider blood.
tangent, they have this stupid thing where it's just like they do the same thing with Batman and with other popular characters where it's like, no, this character is popular. We need to make it feel like he's a big freaking deal.
The big deal stuff I'm fine with. My issue is when you try to... Okay, we give these characters a lot of respect because
Certainly.
of their level of agency.
Yes.
No one told Daredevil to be Daredevil. He became Daredevil.
Right.
And we like to attribute that also to the other heroes that we care about,
Mm-hmm.
Spider-Man, Batman. But in those two instances, like you brought up, it's faded. And I
Yes.
think that takes away from the character.
Right.
Because if it's faded, then it was always going to happen. You were always going to get bit. The bat was always going to fly through the window.
For Spider-Man, it removes the entire responsibility aspect of it because, like, no, you were always going to be Spider-Man.
And every
It had nothing to do with what you learned.
And most Spider people know with great power comes great responsibility because they are on the same path of righteousness because they're all Spider Totems.
Right.
So it's that stuff too. And the same thing with Batman.
Except for Ben Reilly. He was a dick.
It's like Batman is the wagon of the Bat God because the Bat God was always going to come through, but that is a snake eating its own tail because Bruce Wayne went back in time. You understand? So
freaking Ouroboros.
So with all that, I really did appreciate this story because it's basically everything is on the page.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is right there.
Yes.
If you don't know the characters, they're explained well. You even get the Daredevil Origin revisited.
In its own right, yeah, it's a great jump on point if you really want to track down that many years of Daredevil pre the Brian Michael Bendis one. Good old.
I heard that was good.
Bendis.
And then Brew Baker also wrote for Daredevil, right?
Did he? I'm not sure.
I don't know. That guy's awesome though.
Look this up.
Ed Brubaker, amazing. I think he was working on Westworld.
Okay.
Which was also kind of like, I was like, oh, wow, check that out.
I didn't know Brubaker was doing TV.
Yeah, like, what a jump. Jed Johns, pay attention. You need to get yourself on something prestige like that.
He's working apparently on the Green Lantern film.
Get on Avatar. Go try to do
apparently
that.
he's writing. Apparently he is writing the Green Lantern film.
Oh my God, can we do the Green Lantern movie where they fight the cats from Avatar?
Jesus
That's what I need to see for the unobtainium.
I've
Remember?
never seen Avatar.
Yeah, they're trying to mine that planet for its resources called unobtainium. Absolute garbage. But like I said, when you've reviewed and read and watched the amount of comic book stuff that we've gone through, at least especially at this point, we're on episode 41, baby.
Mm-hmm. About to reach that midpoint.
Yeah, so when you've done all of that, few times are you going to be impressed or surprised. But there were many panel turns or page turns that I've done here in this book where I was like, that was a pretty legit either line or drawing or just narrative. I was honest to God impressed at several of the turns here and this is something I read before. I've read this book before and I still forgot. And we've talked about sometimes there being a disconnect with these older books, especially with the way they were inked and the way they were the bubbles are drawn and the way that sometimes the characters are drawn.
Yeah, older books can be a bit. It's very difficult for me to read some of those older books just because like I'm not used to the art style, especially like when it's just giant colors up against a white page and word bubbles.
I don't like yellow word bubbles.
I can see
that's my
pet peeve.
Yeah, it's just so glaring. But I understand it's a comic book. It's supposed to like.
Yeah, it's supposed to pop out.
Exactly. But
yellow word bubbles.
We're spoiled in this digital era. Era, everything is so clean.
Yes.
To the point that, especially if you're reading it on a tablet, you can spread out some of these pages, look for the background details, and they're clear as day. Where in some of these books, someone is just 2 feet away and their face is unrecognizable.
Right.
You know that? Like they just gave up. They were like, yeah, that's a guy.
The interesting thing for a lot of them is just like these faces don't even really have any real detail to them. So there's no actual, you never create this thing in your mind where it's like, this is what the character looks like. You have little checkpoints in your head where it's like, he's blonde.
Right.
So it doesn't really matter. It made it easier for the films because it didn't matter who played them. Like, just give him blonde hair and he looks like it.
Exactly. I mean, you could even talk about that with Captain America.
Yeah.
I would probably still argue that he is probably the most featureless. Like, there's no, like, you can't be like, well, Cap's always had this.
Yeah.
They've done everything with the character at this point.
It's not like Superman where it's like there's the hair curl.
Right.
Or
the strong chin.
Yes.
And Cap's been drawn with strong chins before, but that's not a defining trait of the character.
Right.
That's how people choose to depict him.
Right.
And is that a Marvel thing?
I don't know. I just imagine it was an early comic books thing where it's like you had to get these things out, and we were all drawing them by hand and working it out before the advent of digital and super detailed and whatever ridiculousness we went through in the 90s where we had to put massive extreme colors on everything. I am struggling to read 90s X-Men because, oh my god, the way that craziness is drawn sometimes.
Oh, like the Liefeld stuff? Like, not the Liefeld stuff.
Not Liefeld stuff, but some of the Jim Lee stuff.
Have you seen some of the Liefeld stuff?
I've seen a little bit.
It looks hard to read. Everything is sharp. The hair is sharp. The hips are sharp. The elbows are sharp.
I've seen a little bit.
I'm like,
it's very angular.
On? Yeah, I'm like, what is going on?
And of course, that weird joke about feet that I can't get away from now.
But it's sold, so it is what it is with that.
By the end of this, Daredevil has kind of turned the tables on him.
On Fisk.
Yes.
Not only that, but Fisk, once he realizes that Daredevil has not been killed in the car thing. In the setup for that, he
obsesses.
Yes, and he's on the pulse of that. From that moment on, like he knows Daredevil's coming back for him.
Right.
Like he knows that he will reap the.
He keeps
the
repeating
vengeance.
like they didn't find a corpse. There was no corpse.
This is the Telltale Heart. This is the Raven. This is Christianity in a nutshell. Where if you've done or Catholicism in a nutshell, where vengeance will be had. Like if you've wrought vengeance, you will
righteous
get
vengeance.
Exactly. And this idea that Daredevil would be the delivery system for said vengeance was really, really cool. Daredevil gets stabbed in this by Santa. You want to talk about that? You want to talk about that?
That was a thing that happened. Santa.
Daredevil sees Turk Barrett of
when
Netflix
Santa has been corrupted, there is no longer hope.
Yeah, Turk Barrett is dressed like Santa, and I guess they're just... Oh, did you catch? It was Turk and Grotto. So Grotto was the guy from season 2 that they were trying to protect in Daredevil.
Oh, okay.
That Frank was trying to kill.
Yes.
So you had these two named villains up here cameo wise, and Grotto's chilling with Turk, and they're about to just steal money and they act like they're doing a fundraiser or whatever and steal money for themselves. And Daredevil sees them and is like, not today. And he's just stabbed. They just stab him. Santa just shanks him. And then they walk away.
Damn, Santa.
And I'm like, what? That's some cold. That's some cold mess right there, Turk.
Yes, it is. That's how Turk Barrett rolls.
They play him as such a fool in the Netflix series. And then to have him here just shank my man Matt.
He got away with that gun sale.
Oh, yeah, he did. But that to be going around shanking people, I was like, man, that's...
Still killed the dude anyway, but the gun didn't work.
In true Frank Miller fashion, we see the tortured patriot, right? Because that's kind of what Superman was depicted as.
Yeah.
In Dark Knight Returns, but in here, the tortured patriot is Captain America.
Yes.
Captain America is in the thankless job. He's in the powerless position. He is just the one man trying to defend America in a time when people just kind of are apathetic to the whole idea of patriotism.
But we also see this interesting juxtaposition of the Avengers as like, the Avengers are here, the problem is solved. And the rest of them are just like, look who showed up. The Avengers.
Yeah.
Yay.
They're here to clean up all this. Hey, what's this street level stuff going on here?
Praise be unto all of us. The Avengers have showed up to save our butts.
They do something similar in the Swamp Thing book with the Justice League.
Do they?
It's just this idea that, like, yeah, we get that you exist and you're like the greatest superhero fighting force, but you don't see everything.
Right.
There are things going on, and when you get to them, it will not be the first time someone's gotten to them.
Yeah.
So when they come to stop this Nuke situation, the Avengers, it's the first they're seeing of this, but not the first that we are seeing of this, because we were let in by Kingpin and Nuke and Daredevil.
You are on your perch so high that you do not see what is happening on the ground until something big enough explodes for you to notice it.
Exactly.
And then Nuke showed up, and it was unignorable.
And at that point, that seems you can see why somebody like Daredevil will be kind of ticked about something like that, where it's like, oh, so it's finally a big enough deal.
It's your problem now.
It's finally a big enough deal. Okay.
Now you want to help.
Remember when my house blew up?
No one noticed that.
Remember that? My house blew up. No one cared. No one checked in on me. Then there was like, oh, Matt Murdock's dead. That whole thing that was going around. Nothing. Not a call. Nothing.
No.
Gotcha.
Did no one even notice the Kingpin was just racking up businesses and extorting people left and right?
No, it's never.
Nobody.
And I'll be interested to know. And if you guys know, go ahead and reach us at the various social media platforms that we're on. If there is a specific Avengers Kingpin story.
No, none that I know of.
Right?
I
know he deals with Frank. I know he deals with
the interesting thing
Punisher.
for me when the TV show came around was that because of the cartoon, I'd always pegged Kingpin as a Spider-Man villain.
Yeah.
So then I was like, oh, he's a Daredevil guy? Okay.
What I like
Interesting.
What I like more though, Greg, is I feel like in this characterization, it's alluded that he's a New York guy.
Right.
And I love that. And I think that Netflix deals with that. But it needs to spread it out. He needs to be in the Enterprises, whatever. He needs to be messing up all that. He needs to be messing up the stuff with Jessica Jones.
But I guess the difficulty with that is that like everyone has an Enterprise.
Yeah, that's true. And he probably couldn't.
Which has their own villains who want some sort of capitalistic gain.
I really would have dug a Mariah Dillard, Stokes, Fisk, Davos kind of thing. I know they kind of did something like that with the Five Fingers of the Hand.
Yes.
But I think the less.
But I think the hand is a lot. I think in that sense, the hand is just something that's a lot bigger.
But it's so mystical that I feel like the less you talk about, the more.
Right.
The more they explain the hand stuff to me, the more I'm just rolling my eyes about it. I'm just like.
The more you explain it, the more it becomes a thing you understand, and the more you understand it, the more it's just like, well.
Have you ever read Shadowlands?
No. I heard it's bad.
It's the idea is good. The premise is pretty cool.
It was a good idea that was poorly executed.
Yeah, the premise is pretty cool, and I think the premise is that Daredevil kills the leader of the Hand, and
thus becomes leader of said hand.
Well, he does the Luke Cage thing that we were talking about, where he says, okay. If I don't head this,
right,
someone else is gonna head this.
Someone probably worse,
and they're gonna kill a whole bunch of people.
Right.
But under my influence,
power vacuum.
Yeah, but under my influence, I can turn the hand to righteousness.
Sure.
And so half of New York becomes feudal Japan. They just build on top of skyscrapers. You just build feudal buildings and Shadowland flags.
Which is where I kind of want to put Luke Cage now.
Yeah. So you have all these territories, and the hand is supposedly doing good and righteousness. But at one point, Daredevil is being possessed by a demon of the hand. Sure. And it becomes a whole thing. But the idea that it's
one of those things that like, oh, okay, you presented an interesting story. Matt Murdock has to now become sort of this crime boss to, try to handle things as best he can and deal with the duality of handling being himself and also handling this evil power. And then you ruined it with supernatural evilness.
Yes. Well, I have something to say. I have something to say to that point. But yeah, it's like you said, they will create these ripples, and they're interesting. And a lot of the interesting nature is what would drive a seemingly good-natured man, a guy with a good head on his shoulders, a guy who wants to do good. What will drive them to the point of, quote unquote, caring more about effectiveness than what's right?
Right.
We see this with Injustice.
Yes.
Right? But because it's Injustice, you can play that out 5 years from now.
Right.
And there's this
technically they did.
There's this thing in modern comics. Well, not modern comics. There's this characterization that I guess is happening more now than ever before, where they want to take every hero to that at one point. That idea of like the Shadowlands stuff with Daredevil, the Secret Empire stuff with Cap, like the same character, but if all their energy was spent doing something probably that they shouldn't, even though it would be more effective.
Sure.
But in both instances there that I can think of, at the end, they just got to go,
I mean,
whoops.
I haven't read it yet, but like I guess you could say you get that sort of thing with like kind of sort of superior Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Where it's like,
Well, the idea behind Superior Spider-Man, without spoiling it, is, as everyone knows, Peter becomes Spider-Man again. So it's like, even when you get to those interesting layers of these characters, it all just gets reversed because it can't stay.
We revert back to status quo and we keep everything real safe.
Exactly.
Instead of telling what would have been the interesting story.
I really commend DC for continuing the Injustice stories, because they've got an audience, and people are digging these characterizations of these characters, and they got to take them to natural occurring, like what was seemingly naturally occurring events, as opposed to, well, get ready for bad Batman or get ready for bad Superman, and this ain't your grandfather's Daredevil, like I get it. I like to see men corrupted. My favorite series is Breaking Bad. That's what all that is about.
I've not seen it.
Is literally, I implore you to watch it. But the way I'm gonna sell it to you is, this is the slowest heel turn in television history. The slowest turning of a man, a good-natured, strong-headed man, to probably something a little bit more malicious. But the enjoyment in the series is when you decide he's gone too far.
Okay.
Because seemingly the first inklings of him doing things that are not too right have kind of a base, have a reason, have a logic.
Some sort of righteous logic to it.
Then they start getting a little bit less logical. But it's the idea. It's like the idea with the Shadowland stuff, or the idea with the Injustice stuff. Like, once you've gone this far, you might as well go with the rest. And
once Superman killed a child.
That's what I'm saying. But for a lot of people, Injustice Superman was their guy. Yeah. Finally, he let loose. Finally, he's done, which is the worst characterization. Not the worst characterization of it, but that's not the characterization of it.
No,
it
not
should
at
not
all.
be. It's cool to have Elseworld. I dig that. But you have to realize that the Injustice Superman is just as much Superman as the Nazi Superman is. He's just a version of Superman. So, you know, when that happens, Lois dies and he becomes, High Chancellor Superman.
Yes.
There's a lot of people on his side.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of people like Joker should have been dead. For a lot of people, he was, well, maybe not to that extent, he was justified.
Well, you read the latest Captain America issue?
Yeah.
He speaks to a guy who was just like, Hydra was cool, yo.
He's like,
Hydra gave us jobs.
We were fed, we were clothed, we had jobs, we had shelter.
Hydra improved the hospitals, like,
to a perspective.
I'm not exactly, we weren't exactly upset about this completely.
Yeah. So you have you end up having this kind of weird, like you said, duality, where you have to decide who this character is going to be. And I think that this book here in particular did something very cool, which was stripped almost everything away from Daredevil. At one point, the man doesn't even have his suit. Remember that? He takes the suit from the doppelganger. Because when the cops show up, there's like, it's funny as hell. They're like, there's like 6 people dead here. There's like a naked man over here. Paolo we're gonna arrest, and he's had like,
now that I think about it, there's like 3 instances in where like Matt receives the suit.
Yeah.
Because like he gets the suit out of the rubble of his old apartment.
Yeah. Which, come on, between that shot and the shot of I get the poetic nature of it, but the shot of Batman holding Jason Todd in a building that's been exploded. The building's gone, but the body's fine. Body in the suit.
Oh no.
Great.
Okay, so you're talking about the one where it has Karen.
Yeah.
Where the building explodes, but Karen is fine.
Fine. Good. She is fine.
And clutching the Daredevil outfit.
And I'm like,
it's like, you might need this.
And I'm like, what is going on here? Do people not know how explosions work? How, like, combustion? Stuff like that? Fire? Like, the basic things here?
Oh, it's like in the movie where, like, someone goes through a different corridor and the idea that the fire just goes right past them.
Oh, yeah.
The fire wouldn't just keep
wouldn't go everywhere that it can. You know, that idea. I don't know, man.
Like, no, fire works in a straight line.
But yeah, I was like, I dug it. I dug, like, the nature of, like, he's finding it's the only thing that's left or whatever. It just doesn't work that way, though. It doesn't. And it also made it seem like he was in a apartment. Yeah. It was his sole apartment? Like, he lived there by himself? You don't just blow up a building in New York. You have to blow up a block.
Nobody else died?
It scared me because when it happens, he first says, I hear children crying. Right. And I'm like, oh, Kingpin's blown up the block. Like Kingpin,
Right.
I thought I was gonna start getting like Mr. Vaselli and his 3-year-old son live on the
Right.
first floor, and I guess I'll never see them again. I thought I was gonna start getting some really grim stuff, but he's like, I hear babies crying. Oh no, wait, that's sirens.
Those are sirens.
And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. Sirens. Like, I'm assuming people are gonna ask you questions.
Right.
Why are you clutching that? Why, blind man, are you clutching that Daredevil outfit in the midst of all this rubble? Yeah. I dug how they stripped everything away and then eventually gave it all back to him. And then very Job almost, right? Too,
Yeah.
The idea that you would be punished and stripped away, and you have to maintain your faith and have to maintain your sanity. Something that
how much are you willing to go through for your belief?
Right, and we didn't even talk about this. He hits a cop.
Yeah.
Matt Murdock attacks an officer of the law. He witnesses like a mugging in a train station, something like that. Beats the hell out of the guy who's trying to do the mugging.
Yeah.
Like, breaks his wrist and stuff like that. I like that entire sequence is narrated by Kingpin, or
Right.
I think Wesley. Wesley's
so.
telling Kingpin like he's gone mad. Like
Oh,
Matt Murdock has gone insane.
Because like he's so paranoid that like anyone is working for the Kingpin, that when a cop accosts him, he just breaks his wrist.
Yeah. He's just wilding out in the street, and he's like, he's a madman, and he's like, and then
Kingpin is just sitting there, just like brimming over these stories that like Matt Murdock is just losing his.
And then at one point, he just straight up says like, I could kill him at any time.
Yeah.
Like, I could end all this madness, all this torture.
But then the fun would end.
Yeah, but he's like, but why?
The fun would end.
And
it's like saying I could eat this cake, but the cake would be gone.
I think he's eating all the cakes though. But Matt Murdock,
he's learned from the years of lost cakes.
Matt Murdock has just, or the character of Daredevil has just been such a thorn in this man's side that he is willing to see him all the way to the point of madness, and then seemingly the setup where he was gonna have him killed, straight up killed. But I think the killed stuff comes because he came to his house. He wasn't planning to kill him before then. He was gonna let him dangle on the string. But as soon as Matt came to his house, he was like, "Well, now that I beat you up and you're in my house bleeding."
I think that was his like. Once disheveled, broken, tired Matt Murdock comes to his home and he gets to beat on him with his own bare hands. He's like, It's almost an orgasmic experience.
I love that in that fight, when he has that fight with Kingpin, the very first thing Matt does is basically hit him in the torso with his cane as hard as he can. Like, that's the first, like, screw this, and it says "fap," and he hits something, and Kingpin no-sells it. He just like looks at him like, that was your plan? Like, you walked all the way over here from Hell's Kitchen, and
this is hit me in the belly with a cane.
Wait, and then he just beats the hell out of him. Oh my God! To the point that he's having flashbacks of his origin. Like, that's a pretty bad beating there.
All that for a drop of blood.
Yeah. That is basically that scene right there.
Yeah.
Honestly, yeah.
The end of it pretty much means that like the entire Nuke thing backfired on him.
Yes.
Because now the fact that Nuke became public means that the military has to spin it out, which means they need to completely remove Nuke. And now they remove themselves from any connection with the Kingpin.
Right. And very much like that first season of Daredevil, where it deals with Kingpin trying to grow legitimacy. Remember, he stands in front and he's like, my name is Wilson Fisk, and he does the whole thing there.
He reveals himself, yeah.
By the end of that, though, he is so embarrassed by all of his transgressions put into light.
Mm-hmm.
The article comes out just like in this book. The article comes out that says, "No, this guy's trash."
Kingpin, Wilson Fisk, crime boss.
Yeah, and it's all for naught. All the posing and the pompous lectures and the holier than thou and the being the white knight of Hell's Kitchen, and he couldn't beat the Daredevil.
Everyone connected to him has disappeared.
Yeah,
like all his fronts and
not to romanticize the guy, but I don't know what other way I would have done it. Like, he did a lot of things to the T.
Yeah,
like he shut a lot of stuff down. Now, now where he falls off is like where you said, and this happens a lot in movies where the villain gets so desperate that they introduce an unpredictable, uncontrollable element.
Yeah,
and once that happens, go for broke because you won't be able to chain it back up. You've already released this thing into the wild, and you think it's working for you, but it's not. And it goes to the point where when they got the crazy Daredevil from the insane asylum, the first thing he does is backstab Fisk and shoot his crony.
Yeah.
So, as Kingpin starts to get more paranoid, he starts to implement these crazier decisions, like in the show when you kill a man with your bare hands, a reporter with your bare hands, you know,
right.
or behead a man with a car door. But you see that level. You see that level of, I guess, tempered rage, like that level of like quiet tempered rage in this book as well. Because he's constantly brooding, he's constantly looking outside his window, and just these eternal monologues of Matt Murdock and all that kind of stuff.
Just sort of waiting for him.
Yeah,
like he's coming back.
Yeah, but I really, really, really dug that. I dug, like I said, because of the way the Avengers show up, it does really make you feel like guys like Daredevil do all the work. Because the Avengers show up like Damage Control shows up in Spider-Man Homecoming. Like, oh no, we got it from here, guys. Checks all year.
Sure.
But
it's like the FBI showing up at the last minute, and the cops are just like,
exactly.
And now you guys are gonna take all the credit for this crap.
Right. And we've seen that before as well.
The Bugle's gonna talk about how Captain America and Iron Man showed up. Meanwhile, I'm the one taking all the hits.
So Netflix comes to you, slaps his book on the desk, and says, "We don't want to straight up do this story, but we want to take what you would consider the best elements from it."
Okay.
What do you think is usable?
Obviously what they've already started with Sister Maggie is very usable because they don't have to do but too much.
But to what conclusion would you do that? Would it just be like you keep it up in the air, the whole like mother thing? Do you just say it and then she's never seen again, like in this book?
I think she shows up someplace back at the end, but you get a few episodes of, and this is what happens with novel Netflix. Those first few episodes are really a lot of bricklaying.
Yeah.
You get a few setups of
usually a murder or two.
Sure. Whatever the villain is going to be doing, and then Sister Maggie and them taking care of Murdock at the monastery. Maybe some inner stuff going on with Matt Murdock as he's still in the coma.
Right.
Do they have a villain for this yet?
I don't think
officially.
So.
That
no.
is.
I actually forgot. I was watching Iron Fist and I forgot that they had Typhoid Mary for her. For Iron Fist. So when somebody shows up and is like, "Hey, my name's Mary," I'm like, "Oh, wait, yeah."
I haven't caught it yet.
I had just
playing too much Spider-Man. Haven't caught it yet.
I don't blame you. That game's amazing. Get it, or maybe spectacular. To me, I really dig. I wouldn't redeem her, but I really dig the Karen Page selling out Daredevil.
Really?
Now for drugs. If you're gonna redeem her, don't do it for drugs or prostitution.
I don't think she's at that. I don't think she's at that point as a character.
But I think that
especially after she killed Wesley.
well, right now, my thing is right now she knows Matt is Daredevil.
Sure.
Right. I think she is. What was the thing they said? There's always a pressure point.
Right.
Or something. I think that was said in the book, something like that. Like there's always a soft spot, there's always a pressure point.
Something you can press to make someone move.
I think Karen's that for Daredevil. And okay. I think she can get to a point of like, I'm sorry, I had to, you know what I'm saying? They were cutting my fingers off, or they were blowing up my law firm, or they were gonna kill Frank, or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Like I could see it get to a point of like, Matt, they know. You know, like, and how do you deal with that moving forward? Are you a disgraced lawyer at that point? Because there's another thing. Although Kingpin knew, he didn't tell other people.
No.
How do you feel about that little weird code of honor? Is that a code of honor thing, or is that a selfishness thing?
I don't think Kingpin had any interest in it.
In like
in the
letting
show.
Other people. No, I mean in this.
Oh.
He keeps it to himself, right?
Oh yes. Yes, he has anyone who even knows about it killed.
Right, except for Wesley, because Wesley's cool.
Sure. I think that was so he could have his private machinations unfettered.
Okay.
Because if it got out, and I don't know who's like around at this time, but like if it got out, and then like now Bullseye can start messing with him.
Say, yeah.
Now other characters can start messing with him. The Hand can start messing with him. I don't know what.
And again, if all this happens in subsequent issues of this story, I'm sorry. I apologize. I don't know. That might be exactly what happens. The next issue might be Kingpin going, "Hey, Bullseye, it's Matt Murdock." They're of Matt Murdock. But
I'm told the direct sequel to this book is essentially Daredevil doing the exact same thing back to Kingpin.
Oh, like
where he starts
putting him out
where he starts messing with other aspects of Kingpin's life.
Pettiness is not in the Bible, man. What are you? What are you doing? What are you doing?
By the end of it, like Matt's in this interesting place where he's still disbarred.
Yeah.
But he's got Karen Page back.
Oh yeah, they're walking down the street and they're like, "Well, we don't have jobs." And I'm like, "Well, what?"
No, you don't, Matt.
And neither of you have a place to stay. She left her house.
Just walking through Central Park like this.
Remember your building exploded? Remember she was holding onto your outfit? That whole thing happened. That's real. You guys have no place to stay unless you want to go stay at your ex-girlfriend's house with your homeboy, Foggy, who's over there. Oh, Glory.
Who's over Foggy? There begging your ex.
Oh, that was such a weird thing. I'm assuming, again, this is just to make Gloria into a bad person.
Sure.
And to take everything away from Matt in that situation, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Would Karen divulge Daredevil's identity to save Foggy?
In this, yes, I believe so.
I think so. I think we can do that. I think that's a cool thing.
Yeah.
The Maggie stuff I dig. We've already done the origin, so we don't need any of that. But I need Fisk at full Fisk height. And we already kind of got hints of that.
Yes.
Because at the end of season 2, I laugh every time I think of this scene. Matt goes to talk to Fisk about something or other. He needs more information about something. And like he's in full Matt Murdock thing. He's no Daredevil, and he's like,
this is when he goes to like the prison.
Yeah, he's poking Kingpin. He's like, I'll make sure that your wife never whatever or something.
Never,
and then Kingpin just beats the hell out of him in You
don't mention the wife.
Grounds his head, the same Donkey Kong stuff that Vincent D'Onofrio does. Beats the hell out of him, and he goes, if you were scared of my wrath, continue to be scared of my wrath, because I know how long I'm going to be in here. And as soon as I get out, you and that other little lawyer friend of yours, I'm going to make your lives a living hell.
Right.
And so the stage is already kind of set for that, for this Born Again story, or at least aspects of it, where Kingpin will be making Matt's life a living hell. But
from the outside.
Has Matt Murdock dead in, like, did they do like a 10 dead in Midland Circle bomb tower thing?
I think dead or missing or whatever. I don't know what they did.
Because that's always funny, right? Like when the hero dies and they have to kind of hand wave the regular human's obituary.
Right.
It's like the world mourns Superman, and also, by the way, Clark Kent was found dead.
Right. Right.
Somewhere else.
Oh no! It's usually like Superman dead, Clark Kent missing.
Yeah. So
no one flags.
Exactly.
Superman returns. Clark Kent turns.
He's right back. Yeah, he's right back at work. So I wonder if I know to the heroes the same way. Is internal. So the Defenders don't know where Matt's at.
No.
Seemingly, and
which is the one interesting bit of connective thread throughout the entire thing, because now all the Marvel Netflix shows have gotten to the point where they can be self-referential and don't even have to talk about the movies.
Right.
They all seem to. Well, I haven't seen Iron Fist yet, but the Luke Cage and Jessica Jones both make reference to Matt missing or ever since the incident.
Right.
At Midland.
I'm only on episode 2 of Fist, and the only thing that's mentioned is the flashback of him saying, Matt told me something before the building went down. He told me to protect this city.
Okay.
So, and then you see the building go down. So eventually he'll have, I'm pretty sure he'll have a moment where he's like, I don't know, this is too hard. Yeah. But, it is what it is. Finally got the headscarf on.
I fought a dragon, but, New York City.
The cost of living here is out of control. I'll go back and fight that dragon again. Out of control. I'm trying to think of what else. I really dug the Urich stuff, but I feel like they did that in season 1.
Yeah, and then killed him.
And then they killed him. Yeah, poor guy. That the visual, the panel. Let's talk about some shocking panels. The panel of Urich's wife hanging in the shower was big.
I actually thought like she was done, and they're like, oh, she's still alive. Holy crap!
Yeah, and because he says like the knot's too tight.
Right.
I'm like, what is that? Oh my god, what does that mean? Is her eyes popping out? What's going on here?
Oh no, yeah, he can't get it.
Yeah, I was like, and so that I thought was really good. We mentioned off air. There's the Armageddon panel of Daredevil, only lit by flames.
Yeah.
Behind him.
It is the Daredevil coming out of hell itself.
Yeah,
which is very interesting in the in all the Catholic theming of it, where it's him being born again, which is like Matt Murdock is born again from the monastery, but Daredevil was born again out of this fiery flame.
Right, and both in Catholicism and in science, fire cleanses.
Yes.
Fire burns away.
It's a clean slate.
Fire starts you from the beginning. And so for him to be born in fire, very poetic. I thought that was very good.
Because from this point now, Matt Murdock has to start over.
Yes. I was shocked at any panel where somebody gets shot in broad, like when Nuke is just laying people out.
Yeah.
When he's in New York City.
It's pretty graphic.
And he's just with a machine gun, like laying people out. I was very surprised by all that stuff. You still won't see that stuff now.
No, not at all. I don't think now you'd so often see like, clearly like a woman, aiming a syringe at her to shoot herself up.
Yeah.
That is some Millerian writing right there.
Do you think they did enough to state that she was in pornography without saying that she's in pornography?
Yeah. I think
there was a lot of
clear.
like your movies. I've seen your movies. Still got those looks. There was a lot of that going on.
Oh yeah, and then like when she finally meets back up with Foggy, and like Foggy doesn't know about it. Yeah, it's just like, oh wow. Oh,
but he says like, you look good. I was like, Foggy, what's going on here? First of all, you got the glory situation going down, and then what? She lost a few heroin pounds, and now she's Karen is up for the taking. You better calm down there, Mr. Nelson.
Oh, and then he moves her in. It was like Foggy's about to have all of this.
I heard it's always been a long-running trope that Daredevil is smothered by women. Like he is constantly dating and sleeping around.
Elektra, and Black Widow, Glory. Karen Page, yeah.
There's a lot.
It's almost as bad as SpiderMan.
Right. And so he just gets it.
I never understood the Black Widow relationship. Those two that was a weird pairing for me.
Well, you know what, GT, love is blind. Okay, get it? Matt's blind. You can't see.
Yeah.
Radioactivity in the eyes.
Okay. You don't need to constantly tell me.
They don't need to constantly tell me. I feel like at every point they're like, don't forget, it's radioactivity.
Frank was like, do you know what book you're reading? Are you sure?
Also, when we
bought it.
We were doing the Bob Kane stuff, the Bob Kane documentary Bill Finger stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was doing some other research. I had heard about little bit about Stan Lee, about his sometimes inability to be 100% honest about things.
True believers.
Right. I found it funny that his name is on every, right? It's like every beginning of an arc in this book.
A name that is supposedly an alias.
Right. It's like Stan Lee presents.
Yeah.
Written by, drawn by, edited by, all completely other people.
Me.
But then it's Stan Lee presenting it. Thank you, Stan. Thank you for all that you've done.
And Jack Kirby. Who's that?
Yeah. Me? That was my pen name. Jack Kirby. Imagine a man who's half Jack and half Kirby.
Yes. And then they go out of their way to inject Stan Lee's face into everything.
Yeah. Yeah, there's also that.
What is it? I saw something a while ago where it's like, I don't know if it was a cartoon or a book where a character gets to meet Jack Kirby, who is basically painted as God.
Oh my gosh. That's kind of funny. Well, he's done a lot of that new God stuff, so I mean, I guess
maybe.
I guess that's kind of fitting.
Like they went to meet God, and it was Jack Kirby who draws them because he is the creator.
Also, I remember a panel where like there was like a double cross, and everybody gets shot. I think except for Karen. Something happens where like they just
I think is that when she meets up with Pablo,
Somebody-
and then the other people come for him, and it's just like a shootout.
Oh, they're in a restaurant.
Yeah,
they're in a. She's with this weird drug pusher.
She's trying to barter her way out of Mexico, and then the people she was running from come for her, and then he shoots them
in the restaurant. Pulls out a Uzi in the restaurant.
Yep.
Lays them out
in front of everybody.
Weirdly enough, to Karen's like pleasure, because that's proving to Karen that he can quote unquote get her there safe and protect her, but for some favors, and she gives him all the favors. She gives him all the favors.
Did what she had to do.
Well, that's what she didn't want her to leave. She tried to leave, and then he puts.
Oh yeah, he had every intention of keeping her.
He stuck a knife out. He's like, "You're not going anywhere. You better come back." And I thought that was pretty.
And then he's
crazy.
following her around.
And then Foggy sees him.
Yeah.
He's like, "I'll kill Foggy too. I don't care." And he's just shooting. He's just in a trench coat, legitimately twirling his mustache. and he has like one of those weird aviator scarves, and he's just shooting people in broad daylight. Frank Miller likes his gore. I think he did a real good job.
He does love his graphic style.
Yeah. Daredevil season 3 supposedly drops at the end of this year. That's the rumor. That's the speculation. When it does, all the seasons will have had their second go around at this point.
Yes.
Which I think is
other than Daredevil, which would be his third.
Well, yeah, Daredevil will be at third, and then you got one obligatory season of Defenders in the wind.
What are they gonna do with that?
I don't know. Are you excited for the new Daredevil season?
Oh, very. It's the one I'm most excited for. It's probably the show I think is the strongest.
I don't ever notice in that show when it lulls, but I can noticeably tell in the other shows like, oh, this is filler. This is like. I think we haven't, because we haven't got a full. No, we have. I was gonna say we haven't got a full flashback episode, but we've had flashbacks with Elektra and Stick.
Yeah.
And all that stuff.
Yeah, I remember.
But why did I guess
they had the whole episode where it was a flashback of like Elektra and Matt meeting for the first time.
Yeah. I guess because you get actual information that ties to the plot there.
Maybe.
But there's a lot of times where I'm like, when Luke's in the farmhouse, and I'm like, what are you guys doing in this farmhouse? You're not even in New York anymore. You understand? Or when they go to China and Iron Fist randomly. And it's like, what are we? Yeah. Not only do they randomly go to China.
Still have not seen that season.
But Rosario Dawson decides she's going to go too. Yeah, I'll go. Well, you ain't got nothing to do, huh? He's going to go to
You're
China.
Not a nurse or anything.
You just met this guy and you can go to China. All right, do what you got to do. No night nurse in this book. But, yeah, I can never really tell when it's getting too lully.
I guess not. I definitely, even though everyone seems to like the first season better, I found myself figuring out when Jessica Jones lulled for me toward the end, where I was just like, oh, can we get to the finish already?
Okay.
We're just dragging.
To me, I could tell that show was juggling too much when it kept freeing Kilgrave.
That's what I mean. Like, I felt like we'd already gotten to its logical conclusion, and then we redid it. And then we did it again, and then he gets away again.
I think at first they got him in a truck, and everything's all hunky-dory. We got him, and you lose him.
And then they get him in, like, that container.
With the water.
Yeah.
Oh, we got him. Oh, we lose him.
And now the parents are in the container.
And then she brings him to his apartment, remember? She knocks him out and brings him to the apartment,
yep.
And then she gets hit over the head with, like, a 2x4,
yep.
And they free him again.
I was just like...
So it's like, come on. Move
You're just extending this.
If only for Vincent D'Onofrio, I'm hyped for Daredevil.
So, see, interestingly enough, when I first watched it, I guess you could say the lull to me was like the beginning of Daredevil moved really slowly for me. And I was sort of waiting for the show to kind of pick up. I wasn't huge on the, how do you say, the Daredevil Year 1 gimmick where he's just the dude in sweats and a bandana.
Yeah.
I get it because I saw the book.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I know what you're going for. I'm kind of just waiting for the suit to show up.
Yeah.
And then Vincent D'Onofrio like descends down from the heavens and carries the rest of the show on his shoulders.
Right, but for the first like 2 or 3 episodes, he does nothing. And for a reason, Wilson Fisk.
Oh yeah.
He does absolutely nothing.
No, he's only referred to by Kingpin.
And there's several scenes of him just staring at that painting.
Right.
So
he's referred to in very hushed tones and very, barely by name.
In doing nothing, they established that so much gets done.
Yeah.
By him, with him doing nothing. Wesley is out there blackmailing people. Wesley is out there, threatening people.
Wesley is literally the hand and voice of God in that sense.
He's collecting money. He's holding meetings.
He is the Metatron.
Right. And so, I do like that and that scope. And there's a lot of times where you see the cop be paid off and randomly, this for Wilson Fisk or yada, yada, yada. So they're going a good route. I can see a lot of this stuff. Like I said, in Born Again being used here, and a lot of people are saying that because of the Maggie tease, that might be where this is going.
Yeah.
So
I
guess
look forward to it. I hope to see a lot of what happens in it. It's interesting to see that they might go. I think that you will probably get a new villain in the sense that it'll be one of the various weapons that Kingpin throws at him.
Yeah.
Obviously we can't do Nuke because Nuke perished at the end of one of the other shows.
Yeah.
But there will be some weapon that Kingpin throws at him. Oh,
I think it'll be
wait.
Bullseye.
Yes, that's right. Didn't they announce they were doing Bullseye?
They casted Bullseye.
Oh, okay.
Which makes sense. I mean,
but
then these shows got to end at like season 4.
Right.
There's not gonna be much left. Hour-long episodes are dense. 13 episodes a season are dense.
I've heard they might shuffle it down to 10.
They need to shuffle it down to 10, in my opinion. Defenders didn't even have that much plot.
It's interesting compared to like the Arrowverse, where it's hour-long episodes, but technically like 40 minutes because of commercial time.
Right. And the thing with those shows is you have mini arcs in each episode, all with breadcrumbs of the major arc in the background.
Right.
This is all major arc for an hour, and so it's
real tense.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot to take in.
I think I have this problem most of the time with the binging, where it's like I'll get maybe. I think my max is like 6 episodes, and I need a break.
This Iron Fist season 2 will be the first Netflix show I don't binge, that I will be taking my time with, even though we'll be casting about it next week here on Major Issues. I was not the greatest fan of season 1. As a matter of fact, I was a vocal detractor of the entire
show.
Yes, and so this time I'm taking my time with it. I can say as I'm taking my time with it, and as my expectations are tempered, I'm enjoying it a lot more.
Luke Cage was the first show that I've really binged for this show, and I was just like, oh, woof, this is tough. Really dedicating yourself to like the first 5-hour blocks and then a 4-hour block, and I'm just like, am I near the end yet? Okay,
right.
Okay, we're gonna make it.
and then
like you're trying to keep note.
See, for me in season 2, when it loaded was when they had that weird smiley guy that they were protecting.
Oh God, I hated his face.
So that
you just reminded me how much I wanted to punch his face.
I know I felt about Danny Rand in season 1. But yeah, that's where it felt like it loaded for me in there. It was just like anytime they're in a dark club or room and the episode ends there and opens there, I feel like it's a bottle, and it's just they're not gonna do anything. It's a shootout outside, I guess.
Sure.
Or something's happening. We can't go outside, so we're gonna be in this room all day.
Oh,
this
okay.
is the
Bottle episode. Yeah.
And I'm just, it was like, come on.
Yeah.
I get that you guys have. I guess that show, Luke Cage in particular, probably has like the least special effects.
Yeah, because it's just dude walking through hall and punching dudes.
Yeah, you need
like
fight choreography.
The easiest thing the hardest thing you have to do is the scenes where like someone has to go like 6 feet away.
Bend something, break something.
Oh, that.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess the bending or breaking is easy because you just have like gimmicked poles.
Speaking of somebody who gets blown up constantly and just walks out fine, that's maybe they should use Luke Cage for this whole bombing of the building. That would have made a little bit more sense.
But yeah, like the most you have to do is like you get some gimmicked
nunchucks. What are those things?
Yeah, sure.
Did you like the layer of the 2003 movie making it his walking stick? So 2003 Daredevil movie.
Okay, yeah. His batons are his walking stick. That makes sense. And he's able
to do like some sort of like, but he also has like this really. The baton is the walking stick. Everyone knows of the baton.
Yes.
And also, as the walking stick, there's a huge devil emblazoned on the top of it, whatever. Because he goes and he puts his hands across all of them as they're dangling in his
That might
closet.
be a little too on the nose.
And I'm like, yeah, I the whole purpose of it being a walking stick is so people don't think that it's one and the same. And then you have the thing, and I also feel like someone found one. I may be making that up.
I don't know
in the movie,
but I do like the idea that like it's his walking stick and it's something you can hide in plain sight.
Stick is that too, isn't he?
Yes.
No, that was my favorite part of that show.
Really?
I love that actor.
What a douche.
I love it. He's in The Leftovers as well.
What a douche.
I heard he's in Castle Rock. He just plays surly so well. Like
what a
old,
douche.
surly, ornery, calls Iron Fist a thundering dumbass at one point.
Do you think we will get Electropack?
I was actually just about to allude to that. I don't want Electropack.
Really?
I think that the love aspect of Daredevil is the most boring.
Okay.
I like the dance. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
But I don't want to live there. Does that make any sense?
Okay.
So I felt like it got drug on a little bit too long in season 2.
Okay.
My big thing where I fell off of season 2 was the blood sacrifice stuff. It went kind of wonky for me. Like, we're just taking everybody's blood.
Right.
We're going to put it in this pot. And then we're going to put electric in the pot. And this is going to be
We're going to boil the pot. And then we're going to make the Powerpuff Girls.
Then Sigourney Weaver's going to show up. And she's going to teach her how to talk. It became a whole thing. But I dig the dangerous femme fatale stuff. I think that Elodie Young
You just reminded me of the fucking, like... Oh, I'm sorry.
You're good.
The Sigourney Weaver, air quotes, fight scene.
Yeah, man.
Where she just
getting it.
Flip.
That's it.
Like, we're not going to teach Sigourney Weaver how to fight or give her any, like, choreographed things. She's just going to, like, okay, so you're going to catch her hand here, and she will flip. Do the action.
But the arm wrench flip is shorthand for I'm a badass, isn't it? Isn't that supposed to be?
Sort of, yeah.
And everything. Like, some guy slaps a girl's ass in the bar, and she does the arm wrench flip, and she's not to be trifled with. That's just I guess that's a badass 101. You have to master that arm flip. Have to master that arm flip. I think Elodie Young is breathtaking. I think the woman is very attractive.
Sure.
I think
the accent helps.
Yes, it does. Matthew. Come on, Matthew.
And her poshness to constantly use him by his full name.
My favorite honestly, my favorite episode of the series is when she's in season 2 and she's in Matthew's bed. And,
okay.
Karen shows up and Foggy basically has to ream him out because he's splitting his time between Daredevil lawyering and Elektra too much.
Falling back into old habits because Foggy remembers her.
And he basically reams him.
Yeah.
I'm so tired of these heroes going, like, being unopposed in their own show.
Yeah.
Like, Flash locks up criminals in the pipeline, and we don't know if they get fed or if they have bathrooms, and no one's questioning it.
That pipeline thing is always kind of interesting.
No one's questioning it.
We have no authority to keep these people here. And
then no one really tells Arrow, like, to stop doing what he's doing. And when they do,
a few people do.
But then he says, "Shut the hell up and leave." Right?
He just does it anyway.
He says, "Shut the hell up and leave," because this is what I do, and this is what I'm.
Stop killing. Okay, goes back to killing.
We gotta break up the team. It should have been me. It should have been me and you, Diggle.
Should have just been me and you.
Should have been, and then
there's the voice in his head saying Diggle wasn't supposed to be here either.
Yeah, and it's like that. But Wild Dog makes great nachos. I don't know. Maybe I should keep him around.
It was just supposed to be the mission.
Yeah, that's it. It was supposed to be the book.
Yeah.
Diggle came on board for the book. The book of people that we had to kill.
The book of people must die.
And then, no, we're not doing that anymore. And Diggle's still around. He's doing drugs, too. Everyone's doing drugs. Diggle's about to sell out. They're going to do Arrow Born Again. Diggle's going to sell out Oliver Queen's name for some more of that steroids or whatever. Yeah, there you go. Because he had some kind of arm thing, and they had to put a chip in him.
Yeah.
And he was doing some kind of weird steroid thing. Yeah, so that's definitely coming. But Marvel Netflix looks like it's trying to finish out, strong.
Do you think they're like finishing out for good soon? We're not gonna rock this Arrow thing for like 5 years.
Well, it's interesting. It's interesting because Disney has its own streaming service now.
This is true.
And so theoretically, they could just cut the cord when they feel like it and move it over to the Disney streaming service.
They could, but I also feel like Disney's going to. I think Disney wouldn't put that content on their site
because of the gratuitous nature of the violence and sex and stuff. Yeah, because there's a full-on scene of sex in Iron Fist season 2.
Oh, is there?
Yeah, like in the second episode, I'm like, where did this come from? And there's people bored.
I don't know.
It's just some random addict.
Oh, okay.
Listen, they do one of those. This is what adults do. We randomly take off our clothes in the middle of nowhere and hump each other for 30 seconds, and it's up.
Sure.
I don't know.
That's like HBO level writing.
Yeah, exactly. But
they must be sexing. Why? Because that's what people do.
They're gonna finish.
It's nothing like Luke Cage fresh out of jail, and he was just like,
he took an afternoon. Luke Cage took an afternoon. That was a difference. You understand? I hate the way they try to portray like these random spontaneous sex scenes, but Luke planned that. That was happening.
No, yeah, Luke got out of prison. They both knew.
Yeah, there's a difference, but they seem to be rounding out. Like I said, Iron Fist Season 2, Daredevil Season 3.
Sure.
DC's going to be coming hard. All their shows are coming back for another season, and they're doing a crossover with Batwoman to end out this year. So
also, DC's heading up a whole bunch of their own shows on their channel.
Exactly. With Titans.
Crystal Reed just got casted as Abigail Arcane.
Oh, for Swamp Thing.
Yes.
We don't have a Swamp Thing yet, do we? It's probably all CGI, I guess.
There's a Swamp Thing show on the DC show.
No, but do we have a
casted
an
Swamp
Alec
Thing?
Holland or whatever his name is?
No, not that I know of. I say Crystal Reed if you don't know the name.
Not to be confused with Tara Reid.
No, Crystal Reed, who was recently casted as Sophia Falcone on Gotham, making that DC money.
Yes, definitely.
Maybe Morena Baccarin tipped her off to how good that comic book money is.
Like, go in it, man. Go full dive.
Morena Baccarin is the queen of comic book money.
Yeah, she's killing it right now.
She's got
she's back alive. She's still
two
alive.
Deadpool movies. A spot on Gotham for like the last 3 years.
Yeah.
Several voice roles in other animated
she did
movies.
Wonder Woman at one point.
I don't know if she did Wonder Woman. She was Talia al Ghul in one of the Batman movies.
Yeah.
So like Morena Baccarin just knows that comic book money.
The fans are
on both sides.
That's because the fans are gonna be in it regardless, of quality. These heroes have stood the test of time, and it's because of stories like Born Again that these heroes stood the test of time. So I'm grateful that we were able to go back in time a little bit and read something a little bit older. Probably I'll have to look into it, but it might be the oldest book we've covered so far.
I think it might be. Yeah, because we covered a lot of Rebirth stuff and like present day Marvel.
Yeah, New 52
and a lot
stuff.
more Rebirth stuff.
Yeah,
because Rebirth just was popping.
Yeah. There's a lot of that going on. Remember when Rebirth was popping?
Yeah, I do. Now it's DC Universe, and we're just like questioning.
Why did you do it, Manhattan? We'll figure out in 2020 when that opens.
Man, listen, that Batman movie will be out by the time we figure out the end of Doomsday Clock.
That's why Dr. Manhattan's gonna be in that Batman movie. I think they're waiting for Zack Snyder to write the end of Doomsday Clock.
Oh, stop it! No, please.
When he does Justice League versus Watchmen.
Stop it!
Sorry, Justice League v Watchmen.
Man, listen, I would rather have Zack Snyder write that Superman comic than Bendis.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on there.
Bendis.
But yes, occasionally a good writer will come along, redefine a character, create everything that you know and love about him, and that's what makes them timeless. And
yes,
I really dug getting into this. But we'll be definitely covering a lot more books, TV shows, movies, comic book news. Comic-Con's around the corner. Iron Fist Season 2, like I said, it's already out. There's a lot more stuff to cover.
There are interesting machinations going on.
Yes, and we're also building up. Yes, we're also building up some big, hopefully some big episodes up next. Things we've never done before that we're gonna try to branch over. We're gonna start looking into some indie comics. We got Image is on the board for the schedule.
Are they?
Well, Invincible is.
Oh yes.
Invincible is on the board, so I'm looking to cover some more Image comics. I've read about the first 100 issues of Walking Dead, so. I don't think anyone wants to talk about that, but we got stuff like that. We got Kick-Ass. We'll be covering us in movie form, which is also going to be great. So if you want,
I thought you were doing the book.
Maybe we should do the book too.
When I saw the schedule, I thought you were doing the book.
Oh no, we're going to try to do that movie. I don't ever read the book, but maybe I can get hands on the book.
Oh yeah, it's just easy. You got to do it with John Romita Jr., but that's just my preferences.
I'm with it, but if you want to follow all the stuff that we do. As part of the Major Issues podcast. All you have to do is look for the Major Issues podcast wherever podcasts are found. That's Podbean, Podcast Addict, Stitcher, Apple Podcast app. That's on every single iPhone. It's already.
There's even a YouTube channel.
Yeah, we're on YouTube.
I'm going to badge him to get back in videos, but it's hard to do.
Yeah, I do honestly want to get back into videos, but we'll be working on that. This, I guess, just because I don't really have to edit this. This is long form of me, flubs and all. Videos have to be a little bit more polished, but we'll be definitely getting back to videos.
We're gonna get a big round table and just have the Major Issues Summit.
Yeah, we're ready. We're about 8. We're about let me see, about 9 10 months into this run. So we'll be hitting our year anniversary in December. So we got a lot of big things coming up. But yeah, wherever podcasts are found, we're on Google Play, we're on Spotify. So find us because we exist and we exist out there. You just got to look a little bit. And once you find us, trust me, it'll be worth it. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast with other friends that you think would be into hearing a bunch of people talk about guys in tights and women heroines and benders.
Not that heroin.
No, not that kind of heroin.
Not Karen Page heroin.
Not Karen Page heroin.
Wonder Woman heroin.
You should be ashamed, Karen Page. Every time I'm reminded, I'm reminded to tell you that you should be ashamed. But yeah,
if you've got friends that enjoy comic book movies, we're here for them all the time.
Exactly. So
we even went to Teen Titans Go to the Movies. If we were willing to sink that low, my
yeah,
God.
we went to a screening for that. That was kind of fun. But hopefully more doors open as you guys continue to open doors for us by liking, sharing, and subscribing to the podcast. Rate and review us on iTunes if you guys get a chance. And as you know, Major Issues is brought to you by ComicBook Clique, and you can reach us at ComicBook Clique by going to Facebook.com/ComicBook Clique, Instagram at
yes, that's basically what it is.
Instagram at ComicBook Clique, or use the hashtag ComicBook Clique to talk about all the newest, hottest, latest, and greatest things to come to comic books and comic book media. I've been finding some pretty hilarious memes. I've been putting them on there.
Oh, yes.
There was that one with Vision, with the time stone, or the mind stone, and he's like, I'm nothing without this stone. And Thanos is like, well, if you're nothing without the stone, you don't deserve it.
No, I enjoyed the scrolls to men.
Yeah, and Iron Fist. He had, that Photoshop work of Wilson Fisk as the Iron Fist.
Also, you follow us at Major Issues CBC on the Twitter. By all means, please keep in touch with us, contact us, send out your opinions and thoughts.
Do you want to give out your?
Yes, my personal Twitter handle, which is RebirthGT. For some reason, Twitter wanted to do it in reverse.
Direct all your Dark Knight Returns hate mail to. Go ahead.
If you want to attempt to tell me how great Dark Knight Returns was, that's fine. I'm going to tell you that it doesn't work for me in the slightest.
Somewhere in Ohio, Yogi is listening to this podcast.
And just losing his mind.
There's smoke billowing out of every orifice.
Out of his ears.
Out of every orifice on that band, there is smoke billowing. But yes, you can reach GT Rebirth on the Twitter machine. We're accessible. We're available. Let's connect these dots. Let's connect as a clique. Let's connect as a group, because I've already been to the future and I know that Major Issues becomes the latest and greatest thing to come to comic books and comic book media, and that's because of you guys. It's because of all the things that you guys are doing, and we are growing in numbers because of you. So I want to thank you guys for that.
Mm-hmm.
My name is George Serrano, aka the Don. This has been the Daredevil Born Again review. I wouldn't even call it a recap, just a nice little review. And discussion. I think GT has a little bit of news. We do you have some exciting news for the
No, nothing particularly yet, but I do think we will have some interesting how do you say, collaborations in the future, maybe?
Science! That's all you guys get. That's all you guys get right now. All right? That's all you guys get.
I've been blinded with it.
That's it. But yet again, my name is George Serrano, a.k.a. The Don.
I am Gregory Thomas, a.k.a. GT Rebirth.
This has been the Daredevil Born Again review, and whether you are being blackmailed and having your livelihood taken away, whether you're willing to sell out your best friends for some heroin, whether you've been in those kind of movies, or you're just in the right place at the right time like a Foggy Nelson, remember that you could always be reborn. Remember that we are the clique, and remember that you, yes you, are worthy.